Action Research Multimedia Presentation by Maddie Brew. My problem statement. Statement of the research problem. So one of the things I really noticed throughout all my placements, but particularly the last two that were both in grade 5 classes, the students were really disengaged when they were being taught in a whole class setting. So when I was up there teaching, some students would be drawing, some students would be reading, and even through redirection, they were still just so checked out and not paying attention. And I found it particularly evident when teaching foundational concepts, ones that are really important for that foundational knowledge when moving on into higher grades. Because of this, I worry about the students who are at different learning levels than their peers who may have difficulty understanding the concept. So I really wanted to know, well, what is making them check out, and how can I, as an educator, make them check back in and really engage in the concepts that I was teaching. Math, as we know, it's a big issue in Ontario classrooms as seen through EQAO scores. So this was a big area of focus for me. So based on the research problem, I developed a question that I thought would be effective and help me as an educator better understand mathematics, students' engagement, and just overall how to better reach students. So the question I came up with was, how can I effectively engage students meaningfully during mathematics to improve overall learning of mathematical concepts? Again, I think that this is really important moving on throughout their education and something that will continue to be an issue if it's not addressed, especially at an earlier grade like grade 5 when concepts will continually get more difficult in intermediate grades. So based on my research, I needed to define a couple of things for those who might not be up on their educational lingo, or if anybody on the outside was looking in. So the 3 terms that I thought were important was student engagement, which is the degree of attention, curiosity, interest, optimism, and passion that students show when they are learning or being taught. So I really like the words that this used because yes, you can be engaged, but there might not be an interest, right? So what I really want to build through my research is a curiosity, an interest, and an optimism. And by optimism, all I mean is I want them to feel that they have a full understanding of the concepts. Differentiation is a wide variety of teaching techniques or lessons to meet the needs of different students at different levels. And finally, mathematical concepts are really just the big idea behind mathematical process. So all these concepts are found in the curriculum and they're foundational and will move throughout the grades and increase with difficulty. As with all good research, you need to do a little bit of digging, a little bit of researching yourself in order to best prepare for your action plan. So one of the articles that I found was about student perception of small group learning. Now, as teachers, we kind of focus on what we see. So I thought this would be a really great article because it focused on how students perceive small group instruction. So although I might think it's working, or another educator might think it's working, the students might have a different perception of what is going on. So the findings indicate that the majority of students had positive experiences with this style of learning and that they felt their voices were heard. There was no sense of rejection. All students played an active role and they felt a sense of success in their work. So these were really positive findings. The emphasis was placed on student engagement as they felt a sense of connection to their work within the small groups. And this directly linked to my research question. Moving forward though, because there's always limitations with articles, I'd like more information about how the groups were formed and what levels were included in group to provide a more in-depth look at differentiated instruction. So what I mean by that was, were they mixed groups? Were they more homogeneous? How were the students separated based on their needs? The next article I looked at was managing small group instruction through the implementation of literacy workstations. So although my focus is on math, for this to be successful, working in small groups or differentiating instruction, you need to have a basis for what other students are doing. So if there's a group working with the teacher, you can't just have the class be left to their own devices because we all know as educators how that goes. So this study focused on how to teach literacy through Diller's literacy workstation model. So a special feature to this article was that it used theory and practice. So I really like that. And again, although it's more directed at literacy, all of this stuff can be used cross-curricularly, and it provides a good overview to help point me in the direction that I need to go in the future. So results indicated that teachers did find an improvement in the use of small group instruction, but they did find some difficulties with scheduling as some groups needed more time at stations than others. So this was really important, especially in my research. Again, going back to that differentiated instruction. Higher level learners, they might not need as much time at a station. So then as an educator, you need to reflect and think, okay, well, what can I add as an extension in order to ensure that those high level learners are not disengaged, to make sure that they are learning the concepts and not only learning the concepts, but doing meaningful work that will help them in the future. So again, limitations. I would have liked more information about the stations being used and how they were engaging students. So it talked about the stations, but it didn't go in depth into what they were doing, which I think would indicate effective modes for instruction without teacher support, which is important, again, as the students will be ultimately left to their own devices. The next article, differentiated instruction to increase conceptual understanding and engagement in mathematics. So right there in the title, you can see how this would be important, as this is my goal. I want to increase understanding through meaningful engagement in math. So the article looked at different strategies that teachers used, and it focused on 6th grade students. So I thought that this was good because they were close in age to, or close age range to the students that I wanted to look at. But they also looked at students who were English language learners. So there's a difference there in that how they may have learned in their language might be a little bit different now. And I thought that this would be useful for my research question because it demonstrates how small group instruction can deepen conceptual understanding while still keeping students engaged and on task. And it also focused on classroom management. Again, something that's really important when trying to engage all students. So the last article, Restructuring the Inclusion Classroom to Facilitate Differentiated Instruction, really focuses on the reflective practices of teachers. So teachers taking a step back and looking at, what do I need to do in my classroom teaching in order to meet the needs of all students? Now, this is really important because as we move through our journey as teachers, we always need to be adapting and changing our practices based on the students we have and the needs that may be present in our class. So the teachers recognize that they would need to deviate from formal lecturing style of teaching students to allow them to work together to increase learning through collaboration, which is a really powerful tool. Now, this study used measures of academic progress. So students were tested at the beginning, throughout the middle, and at the end to actually see what the findings were. And in the end, the teachers did indicate that they would use the restructured class style in the future in order to differentiate learning. Student testimonials, they indicated how small group instruction changed their perceptions of math and deepened their learning overall. So all of these articles, they were really powerful in helping guide the basis of my research question, which again, how can I effectively engage students meaningfully during mathematics to improve overall learning of mathematical concepts? So through my research, I chose to focus on small group instruction just to kind of narrow the focus. Because in past I've seen it be successful in similar grades when implemented appropriately. And that's the important part, implementation. So the findings indicate it's effective as a form of differentiated teaching and learning. And I felt that this strategy would help engage students in math and increase conceptual understanding. As a new educator, it's important to research both the success and drawbacks of strategies, which I felt I did when looking at each article. My research action plan. Data sources. To answer the research question, I will use qualitative data in order to focus on rich and meaningful understanding of how the action research is unfolding and whether it's effective. So my main sources will be observation and anecdotal notes. So not only observing the students, but actually writing them out and perhaps coming up with a color-coded system in order to organize, well, is it effective? Is it not? Is it working for certain students? Is it not working for other students? And trying to unfold why. Another tool that I'll use is interviews and student questionnaires. So this gives students voice as they play an important role in recognizing what works best for them as learners. So by having conversations with students and offering up a questionnaire, they are getting to input their voice and tell you, hey, I think this is working, or you know what, this isn't working for me and this is why. Again, it's using the different sources and allowing yourself to use your lens, but also incorporate student lens in order to really understand what is working, what's not, and where to go in the future. So I would argue that triangulation is being met as there are multiple different data sources being used to answer the question. And again, taking in those different perspectives, looking at the teacher perspective, but also looking at student voice and including them in the research. Multiple forms of qualitative data are being used, and they will help to increase the reliability and the validity of the research. Observation and anecdotal notes will be the main form of data collection, as previously mentioned, because I do really think that this is a powerful tool. But a limitation of observation is that it's interpreted by the researcher. And again, that's the teacher, what they're seeing. So to avoid this, using the student voice and questionnaires to incorporate what they are feeling and thinking into the study will be really powerful in increasing validity and reliability. So the participants of the study will include grade 5 students. This is an important grade because math concepts will only continue to increase in difficulty as they move from junior to intermediate. So ensuring that they have a conceptual understanding early on will help them be prepared moving forward. Other participants may include the school's math coach in case you need a little bit of further information, as well as any special education teachers. And the data will be collected in the classroom setting, as this is the natural setting. It's the most authentic place where learning occurs, and this is where they feel most comfortable, and I think it's really important, especially for the reliability and validity, to have students feel comfortable in a natural setting for them. Ethical considerations. Ensuring the action research plan is ethical is incredibly important to maintain participant confidentiality. When working with students who are considered a vulnerable population, it is arguably even more important. When working with students in the class, some may feel self-conscious about their abilities and not want any information to be shared. So again, I had mentioned previously about a color-coded system. This could also be used for students, having a different color or symbol that represents the student. Orange indicating a change needs, blue indicates something's working. And then I also thought of using backwards initials. So initials, some students might see it and see Maddie Brew and B put 2 and 2 together, but if you flip it, they might not be as aware of what is going on. And that's only if other students or other people were to find it. Further, when sharing the data with others, it's important to maintain that confidentiality of the students, but I felt like as a school community, the math coach or past teachers may play an important role to indicate the student you were discussing, and they could provide insight. So I think that there's some circumstances where you may need to share that information. Timeline. So the type of data, observation and anecdotal notes, will be used at the beginning of a unit, twice throughout the week, and then at the end. And it'll be focusing on conceptual understanding in certain units such as multiplication and division. And that's not to say that you're going to look at every student every day, but just pick 1 or 2. Student interviews will be once a week, again with 1 or 2 students throughout the unit, so not all students in 1 week, but just getting that information throughout the unit. And student questionnaires will be used at the beginning and at the end of a unit, and will indicate how they initially perceive the concept and how they feel about the concept after the unit. Closure. Action research is a powerful tool to use and enhance knowledge and capabilities as a teacher. As teachers, it's important to be reflective in our practice and to participate in opportunities to increase our professional knowledge. By taking part in an action research project, we are being reflective on our personal practice and can therefore help our students better learn. It's important to be reflective, especially as a new teacher. We need to seek ways that we can improve overall student learning and understanding. Because we are new, we should be trying out different things and seeing what really works for us. Action research allows for us to do this in a quantitative and qualitative way that will allow you to improve your personal practice and help uncover issues in education in your classrooms. It allows educators to continue on their own education to better meet the needs of students in the class. And at the end of the day, teaching is always about the students and their success in the classroom and as individuals. By completing action research projects, I believe that we as teachers are putting the students first by seeking ways to improve their personal learning and overall student learning and knowledge. Thank you.